Hey there, so this video is it's going to be a rare one because I don't usually like talking on camera or on stream or whatever, and this video is just going to be a very brief kind of documenting my animation process with regards to how I animate a Dragon Ball style aura in After Effects. So I have one already open here, and I'm not going to run through it in full detail because what I'm going to do is I'm going to animate a video and I'm going to talk through my process as I am doing it. So to start off anyway, I'm going to hop in here, then I'm going to just create a new composition. So I'm animating Goku Black's Super Saiyan Rosé form, so I'm just going to call this Rosé Test. I have it set to 30 seconds, so it might be a bit long. I'll make it 20. I have 24 frames per second, and then of course standard HD TV 1080 24, which is what I usually work in. And then background color doesn't particularly matter, but that's just what it is. Now, so I started off with my actual composition here. So I'm going to be a bit lazy. I'm going to steal the background assets from the previous one that I've already made. So that's going to be these layers here, and actually I'll copy these as well. So I'm just going to copy these across, and I'm just going to pop them in here. Now then, so they've all retained their thing. So this is, I'll just give a quick, I suppose, breakdown. I usually build up my backgrounds first when I'm doing an animation. So for this instance I have these sprites here, which are pulled from a DBZ Mugen game. The background of the sky is literally just a gradient ramp solid to give, I suppose, that thing, and then the darkening background, it's just a black solid with opacity, I think is this 50 or 75? 75, perfect. And then I have the foreground here. So usually I animate these with the 3D space enabled, obviously because I will be putting in a camera, which I need to do so right now. I usually work with an 80mm preset. This is kind of just one I've always used. I could use something else, but just for the sake of this video, it's not super important to what I'm doing here. So to start off anyway, I usually set up my scene here and do that. So firstly I'm going to then animate the camera moving in. So I usually go in and I set my keyframes. So the main keyframes that I work with would be the point of interest, the position, and then sometimes as well the zoom. Those would be the three that I usually work on. Now zoom I probably won't use in this specific animation, but I always like to have that checked off there. And then of course by having them all keyframed at the start, then I can just hit U on the keyboard and it brings those up specifically. It's just for ease of workflow and stuff. And again as well, I color coordinate everything, so I have all of my background assets with a dark green. So what we are going to have a look at now, sorry, switching back to layer names. So I have the ground lighten and darken here. I'm going to put these on top of these. So this is more so just very briefly, these are just to, I suppose, accentuate the light that's being emitted by the aura, because at the end of the day an aura is a light source and that obviously needs to be taken into account. So I'm just going to double check that I have the lighten correct. Yep, that's the right one there. The lighten layer, just need to make sure it's the right color, obviously to reflect that it's rosé. It's not, so we're going to get this fuchsia kind of tint here. Maybe lower the color a bit, and there we go there. So you see there's a bit of a fuchsia tint there. Not super noticeable, but I suppose it's more so for myself really that I kind of like to have it be correct. So with that done then, I'm going to then grab my sprite. So I have sprites of Goku Black. I'm not actually going to be animating the sprites per se, rather I am just going to have him stationary. So the purpose of this is just purely to see the aura in action. So very briefly I'm going to try and find a good one for him. I want to get his iconic kind of pose, obviously because that would look a bit better. So obviously I'm clicking here just so I can get a full screen view of each sprite. Again, these are pulled from a fan-made Mugen game, so I'm not sure who made them per se. Obviously, of course, I'm not claiming they're mine or anything like that. So what I usually do with sprites while I'm searching here is I usually pull them out, and then I think this one looks not bad, but I'm trying to find, there's his iconic one, yeah, the JoJo pose, of course. So I bring that in, sorry, getting sidetracked there. So what I do with sprites usually is, of course, is that in Photoshop, I would upscale the sprites, and then I would extend the canvas as well. The reason for that is you'll find out in a bit, so I'll explain it when we get there. So just for the layer itself, I'm going to rename this Rosé. I'm going to change this here, this option, I never remember the name of this, so quality and sampling to this one here, the dotted lines going down. So this just means that the sprite doesn't get blurred or anything like that when you upscale. So I'm going to pop this into the 3D space. He's a bit large for the scene, so I think I might drop the size to 75%. Yeah, that's looking good. And then we'll just position him then so that he's on the ground and looking grand. Okay, perfect. And then of course I'm going to change this layer thing to pink. So that's him in our scene. So next up then is the aura itself. So the aura then, it's a pre-made asset that I've made now. I'll explain them now. So I have my aura assets here. He's under God forms, because obviously Rosé. I have a lot of different variants, so there is that. Now, these are video assets that I've already made. So I followed the tutorial made by Dragon Ball animator Yuya Takahashi, and basically I made these auras from scratch myself. So these are, I think they're about 11-second long loops. Yeah, so they're 11-second long loops of the aura there. So obviously we have to bring these into 3D space, and then we position them so that they actually match where he's standing. Now I might just increase the size on them a little bit, maybe 110, perfect, and then we reposition. So a lot of it is just kind of tweaking it and kind of seeing, you know, where everything goes and all that. And once you're happy with the position, then I then obviously drag this layer on top. So the way it is anyway, I'll just take this off and then I'll show you. So the back layer here, that is obviously kind of showing the flame kind of contour going up here, and then the top layer then is the color overlay. So essentially what you would do with this is you would sandwich your character between the two layers, and that is then how you would get this effect to go off. So see, there's the full aura with the character in it. So it doesn't look bad. Obviously I think it might be a little large, but it should be okay. So that's how it looks more or less as is. Unsolo these, and then of course we're going to make these pink as well, just because I like my consistency. So you could leave it at that and be happy with that, but I kind of like to be a bit extra with this. So next up anyway is going to be I get my Rosé here, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to use auto trace. So auto trace, since he's not moving at all, I'm going to stick with current frame. These settings are fine. So I click OK, and then this creates a mask that is a perfect copy of his layer. So then I'm going to name this Saber Top, and I'm going to drag this below the top aura layer and just over him. Now, this is why I mentioned about extending the canvas when I was saving the sprite as a PNG. So I'm going to use Video Copilot Saber to give him like a glow on the outside. So see here, Saber goes to the borders of the image itself, because obviously it inherits that from the image. So if you have, let's say Saber is just to the actual border of the character, then you're going to end up with light fall off, which looks pretty bad, and unfortunately the likes of grow bounds and stuff can't remedy that for some reason. I'm not sure why. For some reason it just doesn't work on image files, so this is kind of my workaround. So we're in Saber now. What I'll do is I suppose just to speed up the process, actually, I'm going to go to the Super Saiyan Blue Goku in this file, because I use the same saber settings for blue as I do for Rosé, more or less. So I'm going to pop in here, I'm going to copy my saber preset here. Usually I use Nebula as a preset for Super Saiyan Blue. Pop it onto this one. Okay, so it's inherited that, and then obviously I'm going to change the color to kind of a purpley color to kind of match Goku Black. Now I'll make it a bit more of a white, because it's more white than actual pure purple for him. So I'll take that out there. Obviously, again, a lot of this is a case of, you know, experimenting and obviously finding what works for you and what suits your tastes. So to go with this then, I'm going to change the blend mode of the saber layer. I'm going to make it an add layer. I'm going to let that go there. Okay, so now that's on there. You probably can't notice it very much. Obviously it's very kind of faint, but you don't want it too much. But actually, yeah, it's a decent effect there. So that's that. So he's got that bit of a glow on him as well. I have it on mask core. This is what's kind of, I suppose, again, these settings are completely up to yourself. If you want to mess around with them, or you want to try and make them, you know, more pronounced or more subtle, entirely up to yourself. This is just a setting that I've kind of found comfortable. So from this then, what I'll do is I'll duplicate this layer and then drag the second one under the sprite. Now this is what I like to call a back layer. So I'm going to just call this saber bottom. And then again, I'm going to be a little bit cheaty here, and I'm going to steal the saber off this Super Saiyan Blue one. So I use fractal usually for the background of blue. So let's give that a second to pop in there. Now you see you get this kind of cloudy kind of look around as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that color to a kind of purple. Let's give it a second there to kind of render. Okay, might go for a more fuchsia-y color, and we'll just see how that looks. It's not bad. It is a little much, so what I might do is I might swap it back to a screen mode, just to reduce the brightness a little. And also as well, of course, something that I probably should have mentioned earlier, when you auto trace, it automatically reverts to full resolution. I usually work with half, just because it's faster to see the stuff pop up on screen. So we have that there. So that's looking fairly good. Again, it's more so you're just getting this kind of smoky kind of outlook and stuff. Obviously again, up to your taste. Sometimes you can reduce the opacity of your backdrop of your aura if you want to try and get the background included. I'm not going to do that today. So that's more or less it. The aura is looking a little tall there, so I could, not that one, I could actually, and again, entirely up to yourself, reduce the height of that a bit, just so that it kind of looks a little bit more natural. So I'm going to bring this down a bit more, a little more. Again, like I said, all about just trial and error and seeing how it looks. So that's more or less it there. And then obviously then we have a few particle effects that I've pre-made prior. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just jump in and grab those. Again, video files with, so I have a lightning one here. So I'm going to bring this in. Just scale that down a little bit. So about 90%. Oh, I forgot I have to make it 3D. So make it 3D, kind of position a little lower here. Bring it over here. Now I'm going to solo this, because then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use change to color. So it's blue, I don't want it to be blue, I want it to go to white. So I'm going to color pick the blue. And we're going to do, yep, change it to white. I'm just going to up the hue values. Doesn't seem to work. I think it's the 3 you have to do. Yep, there we go. Perfect. And then once that's done, we can unsolo it. And then I'm just going to make it an add layer. There we go. And just for this as well, I like to up the speed on it, because I made it and it's quite slow. So it's going to put the double speed here. And then we'll just let that work away. Obviously it's going to be fairly slow because it's trying to render it. So more or less it's looking good. I think I may move that because it's kind of obstructing his face a bit, so we'll move it down here to the left a little, and there we go. So then from that we then have our particles. So I have particles in here somewhere, obviously keeping very good track of them apparently. So they are, that's the wrong one. Here we go. So this one here. So again, same story, make it an add layer. Going to make it 3D, and then I'll probably keep the scaling. So I'm gonna run the same, actually I'm gonna run the same, change the color on it. So let's copy it from the previous one because we're doing the same thing again. And then what I'm going to do is I might actually duplicate that layer just to make the sparkles a bit stronger. Now, yep, so fairly happy with that. I'm going to just bring the render bar down to 10 seconds because I'm only going to go with 10. So just try to get that there. Now, and then of course, all of these will make them pink for color coordination stuff. So that is more or less it done. For a bit of flair, of course, you can throw in the lens flare behind it. I won't do that myself. So with that then, pretty much that's it sorted. And I'll be attaching, of course, the finished product to the end of this clip. And I hope you enjoyed, and who knows, maybe I might do another one again.